Most men don't realize how quietly things start to change until it's already too late. A woman rarely announces when her attention begins shifting elsewhere. She won't say she's losing interest or admit she's daydreaming about another man. Instead, the first cracks show up in the smallest details, in the kind of subtle differences you can only catch if you're paying attention. Her energy feels different. The way she looks at you softens less often. The spark in her tone isn't there anymore. You sense the rhythm between you is off, like a song you've both forgotten how to dance to. What once felt natural now feels slightly forced, and deep down you know something is changing. That change doesn't mean she's already gone, but it does mean her emotional fuel isn't fully invested in you anymore. When that happens, she's not just pulling back her attention, she's making space for someone else to step into the role you once filled. The earliest sign is her time. In the beginning, she made you a priority. She responded quickly, rearranged her schedule, and looked forward to every chance to see you. But when another man catches her interest, her patterns shift in ways that are almost invisible. If you're not watching closely, suddenly, her phone is dying more often, she's buried in work, or she's too exhausted to hang out with you, yet she still finds the energy to go out with friends. The urgency she once had for you disappears. It's not just about being busy, it's about the lack of emotional access. A woman who still cares makes sure you feel included, even during her busiest season. But when her energy is moving elsewhere, she doesn't check in the same. She stops volunteering details, and her answers become vague and shallow. That vagueness isn't an accident. It's her way of creating space between you and where her mind is drifting. And those spaces are exactly where another man begins to exist. The second stage is far trickier to catch because on the surface, nothing seems wrong. She's still there. She still replies to texts, still meets up with you, still calls herself your girlfriend. To anyone else looking in, the relationship appears stable. But if you're paying attention, you'll notice something subtle and unsettling. She's present physically, but not emotionally. Her laughter doesn't come as easily as it used to. Her eyes don't light up when she sees you, and the flow of your conversations feels off, like you're forcing something that used to happen naturally. She goes through the motions, but the spark that made her feel alive around you is dim. What's happening is simple: her emotional energy is being redirected. She may not have acted on it yet, but another man is living in her head, and every day, her thoughts drift further from you and toward him. This shift reveals itself most clearly in body language and tone. A woman who is invested unconsciously leans toward you, seeks small touches, locks eyes for longer than necessary. When she drifts emotionally, those instincts vanish. She might sit further away, avoid long eye contact, or hug you in a way that feels colder than before. Even her voice changes, losing its warmth and soft edges, replaced with a neutral tone that makes you feel like just another person in her day. And here's the dangerous part: she may not even admit to herself what's happening. She tells herself she's just busy, just tired, or in a phase. But deep down, the reality is that her mind is no longer fully yours. Most men react by overcompensating. They sense the distance and try harder, more attention, more affection, or reassurance. But this only drives her further away. The harder you push, the more she feels the imbalance. The right move is counterintuitive. You don't chase. You mirror her energy. You create space. You show that you're not dependent on her closeness to feel whole. That silence either confirms she's truly drifting or makes her feel the loss of your presence. Either way, you keep your dignity. The third stage is where the signs become impossible to ignore. though many men still convince themselves otherwise. This is when she starts changing her appearance and habits in ways that don't line up with you anymore. A woman doesn't overhaul her style, hit the gym out of nowhere, or suddenly experiment with new makeup and clothes without a reason. There's always an emotional trigger behind it. If she's been consistent for years and now reinvents herself overnight, you need to ask the uncomfortable question: who is she doing this for? Women instinctively want to impress the man who holds their attention. If her effort no longer reflects what she knows you like, it's a strong sign that someone else has stepped into that role in her mind. At first, the changes seem small and easy to dismiss. A new shade of lipstick, a different way of styling her hair, clothes she never used to wear. Maybe you even tell yourself she's just experimenting. But patterns don't lie. If she puts in extra effort for outings that don't involve you, while giving you the bare minimum when you're together, it's clear where her motivation lies. Watch how she reacts when you compliment her new look. If she brushes it off, acts awkward, or doesn't seem interested in your validation, it's because you're not the intended audience. She doesn't mind you noticing, but she isn't doing it for you. That shift in energy is the real warning sign you've stopped being the man she wants to impress. This is where most men fall into a trap. They scramble to compete. They start dressing better, hitting the gym harder, or changing themselves to keep up. And while self-improvement is always valuable, doing it from a place of desperation only exposes weakness. You can't compete for attention she's already giving elsewhere. The strongest move is to stay grounded. Acknowledge the changes, but don't chase. Observe, decide what they mean, and be willing to walk if necessary. That calm refusal to compete is what protects your self-respect. What makes this stage so brutal is that she almost never admits what's happening. A woman rarely comes out and says, "I'm emotionally interested in someone else." To do that would mean facing the fact that she's being disloyal, even if she hasn't physically cheated yet. Instead, she cloaks the truth in softer excuses. She'll say she's just stressed, that she needs space, that she's busy focusing on herself. These lines are meant to buy her time while she continues exploring the fantasy she's building in her head. And make no mistake, once that fantasy gets enough oxygen, it burns hotter than whatever she feels with you. That's why this stage is so dangerous. By the time she faces her own reality, the bond between you has already been eroded. This is where a man's self-worth gets tested the hardest. Do you fight for someone who's slipping away, or do you walk with dignity? Many men take the wrong route. They believe if they just give more love, more patience, and more effort, she'll come back around. But every extra ounce of effort only highlights the imbalance. You're chasing her while she's chasing someone else. The truth is, love that needs to be begged for is no longer love at all. It's control. A strong man doesn't compete for his own spot in a woman's heart. He doesn't interrogate or cling. He understands that once she feels free to drift, she's already half gone. And here's the part that trips most men up. The moment you pull back, she often rushes in with affection again. But it's not because she's had a revelation. It's because she doesn't want to lose the safety net you provide. If you fall for that temporary warmth, the cycle repeats. She'll settle back into comfort, then drift again. The only way to break it is through silence and absence. No ultimatums, no angry outbursts, no speeches about how hurt you are. Just the cold reality of your presence no longer being available. That's the move that forces her to confront what she's truly losing. The final stage is when her actions no longer match her words, and this is where the truth reveals itself with painful clarity. She might still claim she loves you, she might still insist nothing is wrong, But her behavior tells a completely different story. She used to light up when you walked into the room. Now, her eyes barely lift from her phone. She used to share every detail of her day with you. Now, you're left piecing things together from fragments of vague conversations. She used to want your opinion, your comfort, your presence. Now, she moves as if she doesn't need you at all. That absence of need is the strongest sign a man can ever receive. When a woman no longer feels drawn to lean on you, it means she's already found another place for her emotions to land. The stage hurts because it confirms what you've been sensing all along. You can't deny the distance anymore. You can't excuse it as stress, and you can't convince yourself it's just a phase. She is emotionally gone, and the worst mistake a man can make here is trying to drag her back with force. Begging, arguing, threatening, or competing will only lower your value further in her eyes. By this point, nothing you say can bring her back. Words don't restore attraction. Presence does. Energy does. And the absence of your presence speaks louder than anything you could say. The power is in your ability to walk away without bitterness. Not to teach her a lesson, not to manipulate her, but to protect your own worth. When you leave in silence, you preserve your dignity and force her to confront what life feels like without your steadiness. Sometimes that silence wakes her up. Sometimes it doesn't. But either way, you win because you refuse to stay where you are no longer valued. That choice to put yourself first is what defines a man's strength in the end.